We're visiting again today with Joe Gunderson of 608 Plumbing. A while back, we visited with Joe on the show and we spoke about the importance of image and branding. And after we finished our conversation, Joe and I were led into another topic of corporate culture and employees and finding good people and training them and the struggles that a lot of trades companies are having these days in finding and retaining the right people. And so I felt it was a very important topic because I hear it a lot as a pain point. And I asked Joe, would he mind staying on the line to continue this dialogue and share some of his wisdom on this subject in hopes that it would help others. And so this is a continuation of that dialogue. Because what you, the unsung heroes in the wastewater industry, do matters. Every Wednesday, join me, Suzanne Chin Taylor, the DooDoo Diva, a longtime veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry, as I interview guests who are making an impact on how we manage and operate systems for conveying and treating wastewater. I'll also be speaking with representatives of organizations that are utilizing disruptive or new technologies, and executives who are going to share how to be successful and sustainable in our vital industry. So whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology in treatment or trenchless, gain tips on training and retaining great talent, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the DooDoo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. We're visiting again with master plumber and entrepreneur, Joe Gunderson of 608 Plumbing. Welcome back to the show, Joe. And I'm really so excited that we're going to be talking about the subject matter that's on the queue for today.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, Joe, we're going to just dive right in. The subject we're going to be talking about today, as we had in the little preface there, was finding and training and retaining good people. And a lot of companies and municipalities were all facing the silver tsunami, a little play on words there, but the silver tsunami. And also, because of the pandemic, they're calling it, the Great Resignation instead of the Great Depression, the Great Resignation. And then also just finding people that are willing to enter the trades. And it's becoming more and more difficult. But as someone who is very, very passionate about this industry, and I know I share that same love with Joe, is that this is a fantastic industry to be involved in. It's one of the few where you can truly build a substantial income, a substantial career that is very rewarding. And one of the really great benefits is that you can do this starting right out of high school. And at the end of the day, after a number of years when you've honed your skills, you'll be making a great lucrative income. But one thing you won't have is college debt, which I find to be a really big benefit for taking a look at this industry as a potential career path. And so with that said, Joe, how are some of the ways that you think that we could get people to really take a look at our industry as a viable career choice?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I've kind of noticed with people that are getting into our career is that, most of the people that are interested in getting into the plumbing trade have been, they've really been like I think a lot of people that have been pushed into the plumbing trade have been like the kids that have been, haven't been great at school. They never really got the understanding from the guidance counselor. They just kind of said, well, you're not going to go and make it to college, so like let's go and push you. And that was, I think that's kind of an antiquated notion. Now what we're seeing more and more is that there's a lot of people that are very smart, and it's all kind of changing. The tide's turning a little bit now, we're seeing a lot of kids that are really great grade A students who just didn't really want to go and sit through college, didn't want to come out with $200,000 of debt. They didn't want to go, you know, through the same process and all that same pain as everybody else. They want to go jump right into the workforce. And so we are getting a lot of, I guess we're getting a lot of people that have some interest in it. Just, I think that there's a little bit of hesitation with the, you know, as we were saying in the last episode, there's a lot of hesitation because everybody kind of thinks of the stigma of, you know, of the plumber, that it's a dirty job. And that's just something that, you know, with the technology that we have nowadays, it's really something that it doesn't have to be. For instance, with, you know, just on the sewer cleaning side of things, we have great technology like with the flex shaft. That has really kind of cleaned up what we do when it comes to drain cleaning. We're able to go and use cameras to go and see what's going on inside the pipe. So we could do trenchless repairs. So that way we don't have to go and break up concrete. A lot of the stuff that used to be really dirty aspects of our job are really becoming, you know, they're not so bad anymore. And we're a lot more health conscious these days too. So PPE is a big thing that we have. Every one of our technicians on every one of our trucks, we have gloves, we have, you know, boot covers, we have, you know, eye protection, anything that we need if we're going to get into a messy situation. So it's not really that gross anymore. And on top of that, we're utilizing technology in our iPads. So we're able to go and we're not really, you know, we don't really have that dirty mentality anymore. And that's kind of been, you know, it's been a big plus for recruiting people when we can go and show them that. I mean, we bring kids out of high school. We will go and take kids that are going through, you know, their high school programs that want to go and get into the trades, and we'll have them do ride-alongs with us. And when they do ride-alongs with us, they realize, hey, this isn't so bad. This isn't as gross as what everybody makes it out to be. And it's kind of, you know, I've heard that I've heard that many times before, and that's kind of something that I've, you know, it never, when I first got into the industry, I kind of had the exact same idea. I was thinking that this is going to be a really dirty job, but there have been very few times in my career when I've actually got dirty to a point where I thought, wow, this is gross, you know. And, you know, it doesn't happen as often as you'd think, if you're smart about the way that you work.
I like that idea of the ride along, because that gives the person a firsthand, again, when you were saying about dispelling the myth of this is not a dirty job, but also for them to see firsthand what the job entails, that they might look at it and say, oh, that looks like it's kind of fun. Yeah, I could do that. I like doing mechanical things. I like working with my hands. This is something that I might find interesting to do as a career, you know, to see that. I think it's an absolutely great idea. Maybe something that could be offered career day at high schools to, you know, offer ride-alongs that anybody that might be thinking about this as a career. We offer this. Obviously, you know, your parent has to sign off on a permission slip, but, you know, what do they do ride-alongs for policemen? Why not plumbers and electricians and carpenters? It's the same thing. So I like that about the outreach of the word of mouth. And so you also told me that you have a very strong, I mean, you went through it yourself, an apprentice program, but tell us about your apprentice program and how you've structured that to make sure that you are developing really strong technicians.
Yeah. So I guess in our state, in Wisconsin, we have a 5-year apprenticeship, and it's, you know, it's 8,000 hours worth of school. I don't remember. I think 570 hours worth of night school. There's a lot of book work that you have to do. I mean, they make sure that you are well equipped to be able to go out and handle these things. And then on top of that, in our in our shop, we do a lot of training above and beyond that, because we want to make sure that not only are we doing things up to the state's level of the way that they want things done, but make sure that everybody is doing everything the way that we want it done. So like, for instance, in our shop, we are just right now, actually, we're starting to integrate it's VR headsets that we were able to use. So it's a program called Interplay, where the technicians can go and put on headsets and learn how to go and fix a water heater, and they can go and learn how to go and put a new toilet in. So that's something that I'm really excited about rolling out, and seeing if, and like that's actually a really cool thing too, because where going back to the getting dirty type of thing, you don't have to get dirty when you go and set a toilet on Interplay. You can put on a VR headset and you set it in our classroom. So that's a really big benefit to our shop. We could go and do that, and our apprentices are able to learn this stuff without screwing anything up. If they do screw something up, it was on a VR headset, and it's not a big deal.
Start over again. Sort of like a flight simulator that you don't want them to crash the how many $1 million fighter jet. They get to play with it in cartoon mode before they have to go do the real thing. That's really cool. I was not even aware that technology was available for this industry yet. That is way cool.
Yeah, it's something that you can tell it's kind of a little bit new. I hope that they really expand it out to a lot more stuff, but I mean, it's a really nice way to go and get the basics down, so the easy jobs they can kind of get out of the way. And I guess the other thing that we're kind of looking at doing, the average age of a plumber in the United States, I believe, is 55 right now. And I mean, we're struggling to go and find journeymen right now. And in Wisconsin, it's one journeyman per apprentice. So if you do the math on that, it's really hard to go and find, it's really hard to man up jobs. And, until they go and switch that law around, it's going to continue to just keep getting worse, because the 55-year-olds, they're not teaching new apprentices. We can only hire on a certain amount of apprentices. And it's, at some point, it's going to go and get to be where there is actually nobody to teach, to teach the new people that want to go and do this. And we're going to have nothing but handymen to go and actually get these jobs done, which is a really scary thing, because when nobody ever thinks of the health risks of that. When you have a handyman going and causing cross contamination in a neighborhood, you could go and people can die. People can get really sick. So that is something that, I believe, there's a line there where we should be bringing more apprentices in. And like in our area, there are a lot of apprentices that do want to start. We're just kind of held up because of our state laws. They want to go and make sure that they get trained well enough before they go out. But in, another 10 years, there's not going to be anybody to train them at all. So we're utilizing, technology with Interplay, using VR to go and train them as much as we can. And then we're kind of getting into a point now where when we're going out and doing jobs, we have plumbers doing the bare minimum of what plumbers need to go and do. So like when we're doing new builds for houses, I mean, we're trying to eliminate plumbers from drilling holes, from carrying pipe around. Those are tasks that we can have other people doing. And I hate to say it, because sometimes there are situations where it does make us a little less efficient, but if we could go and get plumbers out there to just do the piping, to just go and do what plumbers are trained to go and do, then that's kind of how, I guess that's what we're kind of are one of the only options that we have left, until we can go and figure out an end to this quote unquote crisis that we have coming up here.
Right. Almost sounds, not to get political here, but it almost sounds like if other states with the apprentice laws of 1-to-1 are having the same difficulty that you are there, that perhaps a national association like the PHCC or other things like that should be going to like labor legislators and making them aware of the issues, that even if it's a temporary rollback to allow a 2-to-1 ratio of 2 apprentices
Exactly.
to 1 person. I understand, they want to make sure that the person is getting trained adequately, and getting attention. But if we're facing a crisis, you're absolutely right. Something definitely needs to be done to increase the numbers, as these people, like you were saying, these master journeymen are going to be disappearing. And with them, all of the great knowledge that they've got, that repository of knowledge, is going to be lost with them.
Yeah, and along with that, there, I guess we have a big meeting every year down in Florida, for plumbing hacks, and one of the parts that we do there is called State of the Trade, where we kind of talk about this and what this is always a topic that comes up every year. If we go and keep having this issue, I mean, it's going to be very soon before we don't have anybody else that is. We're not going to have anybody else to fall on. But what about a lot of other states, like in Florida, there isn't a 1-to-1 ratio. They can hire as many people as they want. As far as I know, I don't. If I'm speaking out of turn there, I'm sorry,
Right.
but that's to my knowledge, I think that's what it is. Which is better. But now down there, they don't have the people that want to start the apprenticeship like we do up here. And I have a file cabinet that's full of resumes. So as soon as we have another spot open, I can pull one out and say, hey,
Right.
who's the best candidate in here? In other states, they don't even have that. They don't, they're looking for anybody that's willing to pick up a tool. And that's a really hard thing that they're going through. So I'm not afraid to go out and talk to kids at high schools or go to college, to trade schools or technical colleges, and make sure that they know, like, hey, there are jobs out here for you. You have to keep doing your best. If I think that if it does kind of get political a little bit. One of the big things that we have going on in this country is are at the high school level, kids are getting more, pushed more to going into college rather than into the trades. And, I see that there's like a little bit of a pushback for that now. They're trying to go and get more kids to go into the trades because we're running out of them. But that being said, I still think there's more that needs to be done there. We need to, talk to our local guidance counselors and say, hey, instead of pushing kids towards college, let's go and get them to move into the trades a little bit more. And I've heard that they get compensated based on how many kids, like school districts get compensated on how many kids go to college versus trade school or go into the trades, which is a shame because it's just going to keep perpetuating the same problem. So I'm
it
hoping
was
that.
interesting. Yeah, when we were talking before we even got on the podcast, I remember you were saying that you had a get together with a whole bunch of high school buddies, and all of them went to college, and you didn't, and you were the biggest earner of all of them.
Yeah, and that was kind of seeing that years later. Throughout college, I was going through my apprenticeship, earning money, not having any debt, and I was able to go and pay for the fun things that we would go and do, and they'd be like, oh, sorry, I don't have any money, and I would be like, oh, don't worry, I got you, because I'm over here working and making great money. And then as we progressed, I became a journeyman apprentice or a journeyman plumber, and then they're like, hey, I finally got out of college, and even the ones that did land great jobs, they are still not making as much as the people that are in the trades. And it's funny because a lot of them, a lot of my friends did go through college, got a 4-year degree, or, you know, went on to do other things after that, and then ended up going and coming back and getting like applying for jobs in the trades because they just pay better. So, and you
Wow.
know, that kind of goes back to pushing kids towards college when they're maybe not in love with it. So, you know, these are all kids that ended up going and doing really, you know, achieving great things in college, but then at the end of the day, they're like, okay, well, I got my bachelor's degree, I got my master's, but I still want to go and be a plumber. I still want to go and be a carpenter, and whatever the trades, you know, whatever trade that they went into. One of my best friends is an electrician. Don't tell any of the other plumbers I said that, but like, but yeah, you know, he ended up going and starting in an electrical apprenticeship, and loves that way better than what he would be, whatever he went to school for,
Wow.
obviously, because he's not doing it. Yeah, so it just kind of goes to show you that, you know, there's a lot of upsides to getting into the trades, a lot of upsides to plumbing.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear it all the time when I talk to people. And so for those folks, you know, what I just want to shift gears here a little bit because you have managed, you know, through your career, you know, going out on your own, doing the apprentice, doing all the steps and then launching your company, is that you've been growing it and growing it at a rapid rate, even with the struggles of finding good people. But something you alluded to was you're able to find good people. And more importantly, you're able to keep those good people because you've developed a really strong workplace, a very positive, empowering workplace culture. And I would really like for you to share with the audience what are some of the key components, and I would say just your core values and philosophies for your work culture that you believe have contributed to being able to retain great talent?
Yeah, I think that's really simple to answer that question. We go in, what we have is we want to make sure that everybody is really comfortable at work. Work-life balance is really important to us. We want to make sure that every technician that comes into work is on his A game. And my philosophy behind that has always been, if there's something that's going on at home, if they're not feeling well, if they need a mental health day, give it to them. You know, go and let them have the time that they need. I know once you go and do that, if they have everything else, all their ducks in a row in every other aspect of their life, by the time they get to work, there is nothing else for them to go and complain about. You know, they can pretty much just focus on work. You know, we always try to hire people have a really good disposition. We hire more based on attitude than aptitude. You could train aptitude, you can't train somebody to have a good attitude. So that's, you know, we try to hire good people. There has been a lot of weeding out people that just weren't necessarily the right fit for our company. So it's always been getting the right people on the bus. And once you have all the right people on the bus, we go and point that bus in any direction, and we're going to go and make sure that we do really well. So, yeah, number one is just looking for good people. Once we have good people, then, you know, making sure that those good people stay happy. And I mean, that's been really the key components to it. We just want to make sure everybody is happy. And a lot of other companies that we've hired people from, that, you know, we've had people apply with us and they say, well, you know, how much time off do I get? And we say, you know, as much as you want. You know, you can take as much time. I mean, we have a PTO program. So there's a certain amount that they get paid for, but if they have, if they just want, they want as much, I mean, they can have as much time as they want to go and get their life straightened out and figured out. And, once they come back, like I had a really good technician a couple weeks ago who his one child got sick, and then a few days later his other child got sick, and he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I have to take off more time." I was like, don't worry about it, you're a rock star. I know that you're doing what you need to do for your family, and we're going to go, and we're all a huge team here at this company. We got your back. We're going to take care of your jobs. We're going to make sure that that everything is taken care of on the work front, so that so you just focus on your family, make sure your family is healthy and safe, and once you're ready to come back, you come back to work, you can pick up right where you left off. And that's kind of been my big philosophy.
That's fantastic. I mean, you and I discussed about that survey that went for, I forget how many people, but it was really shocking to see that financial compensation on a scale of, there were 10 items and they asked to put them in order of their importance. And I remember you sharing with me, and it surprised you and it surprised me too, that monetary compensation was 7th on the list in importance and being valued and getting a chance to weigh in on decisions affecting everyone in the company was number 1 and number 2. And that even though people didn't care, all right, I weighed in, maybe my idea or my vote wasn't the way that we eventually went, but I'm okay with that because I still got the chance to have my voice heard. And I think sometimes that's all people really, really want at the end of the day, especially if it's going to be something that's going to affect them every day at work, that you as the boss are, okay, we're going to start doing this now. Well, did you bother to ask how that might impact the people out in the field that have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis? And a lot of bosses don't, because they just have that item, well, I'm the boss and that's the way it's going to happen. But I see that's probably not the way it goes at 608. Am I right in assuming that one?
Yeah. There's a lot of group discussion that we have when we have big decisions. There are times where, I have to go and make a judgment call just like anybody else. But
Right.
A lot of times, as much as I can, I will go and put, the decision making out for everybody to kind of, say, hey, we have this new way that we're going to do things. How would you guys like to do it? And generally we, if I come up with a way to go and do something and say, this is the way that it's going to be, versus if we have 15 people going and saying, hey, this is the problem that we have. How are you going to solve the solution? 15 heads are better than one. I mean, I might come up with a pretty darn good solution, but I could say, the majority of the time, if we listen to our whole staff and everybody weighs in, then, we're just able to go, and I mean, it helps me think outside the box because every person thinks a little bit differently. So if we kind of put it up to committee, that really, that helps out, and we're able to come up with, our strategies way faster because we're able to expedite the process, because instead of me having to think through it, or one of our managers having to think all the way through how every process is going to be done, we could say, hey, how do you guys want to run this, this process? How do you guys want to handle this type of call, or, whatever it may be? And we'll have a bunch of people say, well, this is my best way of doing it, and this is my best way. And, we could take those and maybe tweak them a little bit, or put a couple of them together. And by the time that we're done, we have a process that is like, hey, this makes sense. And this is, I'm really happy that everybody got to weigh in on it too. So it's not just a benefit to, them being able to put their input in. It's a huge benefit to us in the company too. It really helps with efficiency.
Great way of looking at it, and a great attitude for a manager owner to have. Because yeah, I do agree, when you were saying 15 heads are better than one, they may see something that you've completely overlooked that could be the difference between you making a 30% profit margin and a 40% profit margin on the way that you do a process. So yeah,
That
really
happens
good
very
insight.
often.
Yep, really good insight. Well, Joe, again, thank you for, your willingness to share your wisdom and your experience with the listeners. And I look forward to talking with you again in the future and maybe bringing you back on the show on another topic if you're willing to do so. And so again, thanks for all your time. For those of you who are interested in learning a bit more, you can visit Joe's website, 608, that's 608plumbing.com. Joe is also on LinkedIn and welcomes connections. And I'm anxious. I'm going to check out that little buy, sell, trade page that you set up on Facebook just to see how that all was done, because I think that's a great idea for plumbers to think about. If there isn't one in the area, to set up a community page if it can drive business. I think that's really important, especially in smaller communities where you might not get those opportunities to network. And now with a lot of networking and face-to-face things going away, doing so online it's just a great way to drum up business. So again, thank you for being on the show, and thank you out there for joining us for this week's episode of the DooDoo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. And until next time, keep it flowing. Thanks for joining me, the DooDoo Diva, on this week's episode of Smells Like Money. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or simply tell a friend about the show, because that would help us out a lot too. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest for the show, email guest@smellslikemonymedia.com. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the topics you'd like to talk about, and we'll be in touch. For more information about our family of marketing, international business development, and workforce training companies dedicated to the empowerment and education of our industry, call us at 760-217-8010 or email me at raven@creativeraven.com. Until next week, a big shout out to all my industry friends and those who will be. You're my superheroes.